The Delhi High Court today observed that passport rules mandating a transgender person to obtain a gender reassignment certificate violates Article 21, that is personal liberty and freedom. While hearing a petition contending the 1980 passport rules, the court said that transgender people cannot be insisted on undergoing sex change operation for a passport. The court also observed that there can be sub-classification into trans man, trans female, depending on the orientation of the person and what the person wants to declare himself or herself. The Delhi court directed the concerned authority of the central government to take specific instructions in this regard within a week. The matter will be next heard on April 22nd. For more on this, I'm joined by Ansh Singh Luthra, who's an advocate. Ansh, thank you for making time and speaking to Mirror Now. What is your response to this? And if I may, quote the Honorable Delhi High Court, the court observed that you can't insist on somebody to undergo sex change operation for the passport purpose. You can classify such people and sub-classify them. How do you see this development?
Thank you for having me on your program, Archana. So this order stems from an application which deals with the Passport Rule 1980, which requires a sex change certificate to enable somebody to get their the gender in their passport changed. Now, I must point out to a landmark Supreme Court judgment of National Legal Service Authority of India versus Union of India, more commonly called NALSA versus Union of India, where the Supreme Court had recognized that there are multifarious aspects to Article 21 of the Constitution of India, including dignity and diversity in self-expression. So they've recognized that gender is not binary. It is not just male or female. And they've recognized a third gender or a transgender, and that they're also legally entitled to fundamental right protection under the Constitution of India as well as under international law. In this landmark judgment, they directed state governments to develop mechanisms to realize the rights of transgender persons or third gender persons. And an important note that they made is that this right is subject to right of self-identity, of self-expression. So it is not dependent on biological characters, but on an innate perception of one's gender, and cannot be subjected to a biological test. And hence, this High Court the petition comes right in the teeth of the Supreme Court judgment, because Section 39, Table 3, which is what is under contention of the passport rules, requires a sex change certificate to change your gender under the passport. So when the Supreme Court is already saying that it is dependent on one's self-identity or on one's self-expression, diversity in self-expression, hence any biological
Right, I'm afraid we seem to have some technical issues with that link, but the essence of this conversation is what the Delhi High Court has observed as far as insisting on transgender people to produce gender reassignment certificate. Right, Mr. Ansh, can you hear me?
Am I audible?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, I'm afraid I'm sorry for the technical glitch. You're making a point. I want to understand from the point of view of our viewers, for the benefit of our viewers, could you help us understand the kind of challenges, despite the judgment, despite the awareness, and we still have to cover more ground, the kind of challenges that people from the LGBTQ community face when they have to make their passports?
The biggest challenge, as I was mentioning, is that these requirements of these rules have not adapted to the Supreme Court judgment. The Supreme Court clearly directed that rules must be made, mechanisms must be made where fundamental rights of third gender persons have to be recognized and enforced. Unfortunately, some rules and some acts, such as the Passport Rules 1980, are prior in time of this judgment, and hence adaptation of these rules can only be made by legislative amendments or orders. And that has to take place. Unless this is done on a priority basis, transgender and third gender persons will keep facing difficulty. So as I was saying, I wanted to highlight one point, maybe I got cut out. Right to equality and right to freedom under the Constitution of India are also gender neutral terms, and hence enforcing these and the Honorable Supreme Court judgment of NALSA of Union of India is the responsibility of the state, of the government, and hence such rules must be amended.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ansh Luthra, for making time and speaking to Mirror Now on this very sensitive issue.